After trying on a new outfit, your wife turns to you and says, "Does my bum look big in this?" What a terrible question to ask. Of course there's only one answer, but we choose to say no. Is your organisation better at hearing honest feedback? After all, shouldn't the Emperor know he's naked?
So hi Heidi and hi Brent.
Hello.
Hello there.
How are you both?
Another week.
Yep.
Yay! So here we go, that classic old spinach in the teeth, or think of it another way, toilet paper on the shoe.
Yeah.
I remember a moment coming down the plane steps, wasn't it, recently?
Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to an organisation, are we looking for people that say, hey, you've got toilet paper on your shoe? Or are we better surrounded by sycophants that just won't tell us anything we really should be hearing?
It's rather fascinating, and this has come up because we've been working with a client on the ultimate feedback cycle, which is exit interviews. So when an employee leaves a company, if you do things properly, you should get an outside party to ask them, so if you had a magic wand, what really needs fixing there? And the idea is to get an outside voice that can collect this information so that you can digest it and take value from it. And I'd say usually those things land in the wah, wah.
Yeah.
I mean, that employee or soon-to-be ex-employee, they don't care. They're going to dish everything. But are you saying that the person they're talking to might not want to pass on all the goodies?
We're saying that the passed on information gets looked at and goes, oh, that certainly couldn't be us.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I.
There's always a lot of that, and there's always a lot of bias if it's done internally.
Right.
There's always someone in HR that believes they're non-biased, and they will report everything that they hear, even if it's about them.
Right.
So when an organization asks us to be the outsider and do this, we're like, wonderful idea. I think it's great that you're asking. We will give you the feedback from the employee, but we'll also give you a read on what that means in your organization. How is that affecting your organization? Where's this possibly coming from? And that's something you really can't do inside.
Yeah.
So instead of just simply going back and saying, yes, they're leaving because they believe management is a bunch of incompetent fools, you'll actually go add a bit of analysis to this and go back with something slightly more constructive.
Yes.
A bit more constructive if appropriate. They maybe management could be a bunch of fools. And that's perfectly valid.
But it's this fascinating loop of humans need feedback. We know that we need it.
Right.
And it's essential for changing and developing our mindset. But yet we do not want it. They pay money for it. So strategically as a business, they know it's valuable. And it's still an uphill climb to engage in self-reflection and really say, where is this applicable? How did this come about?
Well, and feedback in general is a helpful thing.
Yeah.
If I'm walking down the street, which I was today, and my shoe was untied, and I knew it was untied, I was waiting for someone to tell me, by the way, your shoe's untied.
And did that happen?
Absolutely no one said anything. Many of them looked directly at my shoe and saw it was untied, and I could see they were looking at it, and then they walked by.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to say, by the way, my shoe's untied. It would have been nice if you told me.
Now, from a business point of view, do you see this reluctance to take on criticism from departing employees? Is that something to do with the size of the organization, the age of the organization? Are we looking at something across the board?
I think it's human nature. One of my favorite questions to ask clients is, how many people do you know, or how many houses have you visited where you see the person does not have a mirror that shows you anything other than their head? It's human nature. We don't want to know what our butt looks like from behind. We don't.
Yeah.
I really hate hotel mirrors. They're far too big.
And it is interesting because we want feedback and it would be useful to us. In another way, we would so much rather people don't tell us.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're brought in on these exit interviews, I mean, that's great information. You've got this, this person's not censored. They're going to be very open. Yeah. They don't care. They're not going to be working there next week or the following day. Yeah. I mean, this is really valuable stuff, isn't it, for a business consultant?
And ask clients, even ask businesses or business people, how many of them do exit interviews, let alone do something with that feedback.
Right.
And the answer you'll get is, we file the information.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's no different than organizations do surveys and then never give that feedback from that survey back to the population that did the survey.
Right, right.
Which is the worst thing to do, because that just creates a level of distrust. I told you what I felt, and you don't even seem to care.
Yeah. Say, for instance, 3 or 4 employees are leaving on the same day, and they're all citing the same reason. Surely, at that point, though, with a consensus, there has to be even more of a reason for these people to listen.
Yeah, you would hope.
It's this fascinating intersection of the base most human nature. Oh gosh, do I have something in my teeth?
Right.
It's that personal, emotional, you're attacking me.
Right.
Intersecting with, this is enormously valuable organizational insight. It's a very strange place to inhabit. And as Brent was saying, that's one reason it's hugely important, we think, to have this done by an outside organization.
Absolutely.
And an outside organization who can take that feedback, and if, let's say, an unhappy employee who's leaving says, well, they were always mean to me. You ask, so tell me about what you mean by mean.
Yeah.
And it turns out, from a consultant point of view, what I'm hearing is a generational clash, that there is a very formalized and structured engagement expectation in the internal employees, whereas the younger one who's in and out and leaving doesn't feel comfortable in that. So that's a question not of taking the direct statement of they were mean to me and really evaluating it for what does this mean in an organizational context.
Right.
And there are a lot of variables you have to look at when you're doing this. How long was the person there? Was the person promoted while they were there? Why are they leaving at this time? Did they get a better job offer?
Yeah.
Great. Good for them. They still have some good, valuable feedback to give you.
And that old adage, don't shoot the messenger. In an organization that is going through this process, who is the recipient of this information? Because if everybody says we hate HR and the information's going to HR, it's probably not going to go any farther, is it?
Well, we usually talk about this in the entry and contracting as to who's going to receive this information, how valuable is this information, how wide should this information be shared, because some of it is confidential.
Yeah.
They know Jane's leaving and Jane was not happy working here. Everybody knows that.
Right.
So if you start saying the reason Jane was unhappy, they're going to know it's Jane. You have to be a little nuanced about how you do it.
And that's the individual with us engaging only on exit interviews. When we are lucky enough to engage on a full strategic planning life cycle, I prefer to have this type of information integrated into quarterly senior strategy check-ins.
Right.
So that there's maybe a small select group of people who do trusted planning. And as they hear the roll-up of the numbers, the roll-up from the market, new targets that are being looked at, that they also take a look at these issues were raised. Does this resonate with other targets we have?
Have you ever been in a situation, and this is my final question, I promise, have you ever been in a situation where you're conducting an exit interview and the gripe, the genuine complaint, the concerns that soon-to-be ex-employee has are passed on higher up, acknowledged, addressed, and then that person rehired or persuaded not to leave?
I don't know I've ever had anybody persuaded not to leave.
Not persuaded not to leave. I would say that is contingent on how valuable that person's skill set is.
Right.
If you're treated well when you leave, there's a chance you will continue to look at that organization in the future. If you're treated poorly when you leave and just shown the door, take their pass card from them, and escort them out the door, they're probably going to go, yeah, I probably don't want to work here again.
Yeah.
You know, security escorted me out. I really don't want to work here.
If you're a computer programmer, you're an engineer, whatever you are, you're going to move in those circles. And if you speak badly of an organization, word gets around.
Yeah.
Yes, which is one of the reasons that exit interviews are actually much more important than people give them the attention.
These are small communities of people that work.
Yeah.
In New York, we run into people we know on the street that we haven't seen for years. And you're like, this is New York City. How, out of 13 million people, how did I run into you? The same thing happens in organizations.
The sort of motto of the story is just, no matter how hard, listen to criticism.
Yeah.
Well, and treat your people right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Respect their feedback.
And so next week, what do we have to look forward to in the next episode, Heidi?
Let's see. We are going to be looking at someone who's been in the news much too much.
I can think of a number of people.
Yeah, well, we'll find out next week.
Well, thank you, Heidi, and thank you, Brent. See you next week.
All right, we'll talk next week.
Talk next week.